2, 1, and we're live! Hello all, and welcome back to the Invictus stream post-game discussion for Draghiscu's Secret! Ooh. My name, as always, is Mr. Harlan Guthrie, and I am here with my niche-based friend, Chris.
Nietzsche.
My NT-based friend, Justin.
But how do you do?
The GM extraordinaire, Mr. Mycl Barber.
Yeah.
And I already introduced myself, who played Erwin Kipling. We have just finished Draghiscu's Secret, and we are here to hang out for a little bit, talk about all the mysteries that might have been encompassed within Draghiscu's Secret that we undoubtedly missed, and to answer any questions that you guys might have. So thank you all those who came back and hung out with us, because this is sometimes the most fun part of an entire campaign. It's always fun to see what we missed, what we totally sidestepped, and what we got right. So, Mike, did you have anything to say before we get into all the questions about maybe your experiences playing the game or anything like that?
I say it all the time. I just really enjoy playing with you guys because you challenge me as a GM, because you, again, you think of outside the box. I love the way you roleplay your characters and you make decisions based on your character, not always based on what you think is logical, or power gaming or metagaming. You try to really get in the minds of the characters, and I think on that, like Chris Lawrence has a good question on that of how did each of you like your character or dislike them?
Sure, let's jump into that. Chris is eating, so let's start with NT.
We earned this.
You earned your Haagen-Dazs, man. You sure damn well did.
He's been keeping it sitting beside his computer the entire 10 weeks.
Just waiting, and it's just nothing but water now. It's sweet, sweet, disgusting water. NT, why don't... Actually, you know what? I'll go first, because I think I always throw it off to someone else. I'm going to go first, because I know. I was just mentioning this today. What did I like and dislike about the character? Erwin Kipling, I wanted to play him as a character I have not done before. What's that? Oh, sorry. Is a character I've never played before, a lawful good character, which some would argue I didn't play that well, which is totally fair. I wanted to play someone who was a bit more stoic, a bit more, quiet than a charismatic character that I enjoy playing. Typically, I think, and I mentioned this today, and I think it's a good point, when you play as much as we do, I find that it is fun to challenge yourself with playing outside-the-box characters that you might typically dislike. But I do think there's a bit more enjoyment and comfortability when you play this often with playing something a little more in your wheelhouse, and I think that's why I picked a very high charisma-based fighter. So generally, I liked him. I would say the only thing I wasn't crazy about was the stoicness, everything I just said against, because he was a bit too stoic for me. As you guys know, I like to be energetic. I like to be a little more fun. I like to make those jokes, and it's very tough to keep it entertaining and to keep it serious in character when you're trying to balance those lines. So that would be my dislike, I would say.
Well, it seemed like with Erwin, you were trying to strike a balance somewhere, because you did put a lot of points into persuasion.
Yeah.
Whereas with, like, if you look at Tark Slayton from Star Wars, he was very stoic and, like, completely out. So this was more of a middle ground. Did you notice a difference between those two?
Yeah, you're right. And Tark was much less than Erwin. I think Erwin was my attempt at playing a character with the stats that I like, but not the way that I like. Playing a character with the charismatic stats and the fighting stats, but play him in a way that was more akin to Tark Slayton. And I'm not crazy about that. Next campaign, and probably a lot of future campaigns, I'm just going to be the character I like playing. Because I think when you play as much as us, at least this is totally my opinion, when I play as much as we do, which is every week, which is a lot from a guy who never played RPGs up until a few years ago, never played them, I have to really enjoy the character I'm playing. And if that means playing a similar character to Brainy Jack, it means I'm going to be playing a similar character to Brainy Jack. But that's the stuff that I enjoy looking forward to. So, NT, what do you think? What did you most enjoy and like?
Well, NT was... for anybody here who's a Brendan Sanderson fan, NT was based on a voice from the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson, read by Michael Kramer, and one of the voices for one of the character's name is Breeze. I really liked that voice. It stuck with me over the years after hearing Michael Kramer doing it, and I wanted to base a character around that. So every time I spoke in that voice, that gravelly British sort of, deep sounding voice, it just reminded me of Breeze and the character, and I drew a lot of inspiration because that character really spoke to me. In terms of whether I liked role-playing him, definitely. I loved that NT's main skill was acting, and kind of being obsessed about that and just trying to look at everything through an acting sort of perspective was a really fresh idea for me, and so I enjoyed that. I would say that the thing that Harlan talks about playing something that you really like. And I always like playing versatile characters, the skill monkeys, the ones that are trying to use their environments as much as possible. And I still had that with the stealth and the lockpicking and all that stuff. So that was still incorporated into the character. So I had that solid base of that's what Justin likes to play. But yeah.
To expand on that, Justin, were you ever, by Aisha, by the way, were you ever apprehensive about playing an actor, being that it wouldn't necessarily be a fighter going up against vampires?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that NT doubted his battle prowess more than I did. I looked at the stats. I looked at, you look at his character sheet, and he's kind of a loaded character, like 17 AC. He's a really good fighter, like plus 5d6 if he's doing a backstab. Like, he is a stacked character. But I thought it would make it much more interesting if the performance aspect was kind of getting in the way of the fighting so much. So I guess to answer your question, no.
Can you also say stay a while and listen like he does in Diablo? Because every time he talked, NT reminded me of the guy from Diablo.
Stay a while and listen.
I just didn't want to say it at the beginning because I figured it would never be let down once people made the connection, but now that it's the end, I can say it.
Deckard Cain.
Deckard Cain. That's right. Chris, what about you? What were your likes and dislikes about playing Niche?
I was thinking about it, and the thing about Niche is I was trying to create a character who was a little slower to react than I normally do, and he was very heavy-handed in his beliefs and his mannerisms compared to how I am as a role player. I always have my stupid lines that I always say and trying to be funny when it's often not funny. And it just didn't work for the character Niche, because Niche was supposed to be kind of a slow, thoughtful kind of character, and often I mean, especially this last game, when things pop into my head, my filter's not always there. So he was supposed to be more reserved than that, and more wise, I guess, than that. That being said, I always like to challenge myself, and I liked. He was really useful in this world, being that he was the witch hunter, right? Vampire hunter. He had a lot of knowledge to bring to the party, which was good. And his interactions with the group, I had a lot of fun with. So yeah, a lot of good stuff.
And Aisha asked sort of a follow-up question to your character, both of our characters. Was there a time when Erwin and Niche were butting heads that you guys in real life got frustrated with each other? And I will preamble this. Go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that I was not frustrated with Harlan. I was frustrated with I was more fearful that he was frustrated with me. If I can put it that way, because of the fact that I was not trying to be hard-headed in my decision. I literally was trying to role-play him as someone who just did not like vampires, and and I was not playing him. I was not eager to change him without evidence to contradict that, And I think that I was given the impression that that was frustrating Harlan, and that I didn't want to be frustrating Harlan. I just wanted to play it at that point.
No, not a lot. Well, and from my side of it, no, not at all. Admittedly, so like way back when Chris and I started role playing, maybe. But I think now, there are times that if like our characters are butting heads, we can totally separate it. And like after the butting head game aired or whatever, we played it right after. Chris and I were like, "Oh,
that's
yeah,
right. We talked about it after.
Yeah, great role playing. Oh, it was great role playing." And we totally get it. And I think when it comes down to it, it's just sometimes it's fun to get lost in that. That passion and heat because you're caring so strongly about what a GM has crafted for you as a question. You're fighting for what you want to see done. And to me,
I was thinking. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that to me, that's what makes a really important story when you're really passionate about it. If you were passionless and you're like, yeah, whatever, then you don't have that drive.
Well, I was reading for another system that I'm looking into, and often as an opportunity, maybe as a GM, you can actually implement things where an argument is going on for too long, and you say, okay, fine, you guys have both put forward your argument. Now you're actually going to do persuade rolls and convincing rolls against each other, and that actually would take it out of our hands, because that was the tricky thing, is that I wanted metagame to go with Harlan's plan, but in the game, I truly felt that my character would not go with that plan. And Harlan is more ready to go, okay, this is how I believe things would go because it would be more fun. Whereas I kind of like to go, I really want to just do things that my character would do even if it might not be as fun for me as a player. So I think it would be neat, and I might implement this if ever I run a campaign, is to have, if it gets to a point where people are arguing and it's not driving the action forward, I'll say, okay, you guys have both presented your sides, now roll for it.
Yeah,
because that would be interesting. Because that would have solved
to the community, and they could also.
That's exactly.
We have an awesome.
Do a poll.
That's what I was gonna say. Okay, everyone, take 5 minutes from the game. Vote on the poll. No, but great question, Aisha. And no, when it comes to us, we never let it. We're best friends in real life.
We don't go to bed angry.
Never go to bed angry. Never leave me angry. Paige asked a great question for Mycl on the YouTube page. Mycl, from a GM standpoint, I'm really curious to see what Mycl had planned that didn't wind up in the game. And she also added, awesome campaign all around.
Oh, well, thank you for that. I actually mentioned these guys a little bit earlier because I did know that the fake Draghiscu was a demon. I did really want to end it on a bigger cliffhanger. I really wanted to end it with these guys gathered around, staking the fake Draghiscu, and then he sits up pulling the stake from his chest, as he never was a vampire, so that wouldn't bother him anyway. What he was a Rakshasa.
Oh.
Because they actually have magical abilities that are very similar to a vampire. So again, they can shapeshift, they can charm, they can fly, they can, and that was actually one of the things that I never actually explained to Harlan. The very first encounter at the church.
Is it about the charm?
The charm, because they also have the ability to detect thoughts.
Oh, okay, that I didn't
know. So,
that's fair.
You're trying to persuade him to do this, but he can also detect like the thoughts of what's going on in your heads, and he knows that Nietzsche just wanted him dead. So why would he sit there and pretend to go along with all of this?
Interesting.
Yeah, but they do have a lot of that. I thought it would be very easy for him to play off as a vampire, and why not take the role of the most famous vampire in the land? So yeah, that I really wanted to end on. Other than that, it would have been nice if they had have explored the castle a little bit more, the actual keep, because that's where a lot of the history was. They would have found a note, letter with the original King Edward of Mason's seal, and it would have been him explaining that he understands Draghiscu's love, but he was originally the first one in love with her, and as such, he was demanding rites of first night, where the king gets to sleep with whatever woman he wants on the night of their marriage, and that's what Draghiscu
It's good to be
said, no, screw that. And again, historically, when they said that, they also offered a bounty saying, you know, I can sleep with her, or you can pay me like 100 gold pieces. And Draghiscu's thought was, there is no amount worth her virtue. Anyway, that's how that all came about. And that's a little bit of the history that I'm sad you guys missed by not going through Castle,
but we weren't as off as I thought we were.
No, you weren't. And that's the thing. I knew you'd piece it together in time. We just, in a sense, ran out of games to do it.
True. And actually, as a follow-up to that question, Patrick asked, did the players have any expectations in the plot line that took a whole other direction for better or for worse? I'm going to assume, like, did we diverge to a point that ended up better, and did we diverge a point that ended up worse than you had envisioned? Specifically, more like, you know, kind of like your favorite parts of the game. Is there something that we did totally good and totally wrong?
Well, I wouldn't say wrong. Again,
totally different than you planned. I should
totally
say.
Different. I absolutely never expected them to pull the stake from the real Draghiscu.
Why?
I absolutely, especially because earlier on in the games, I can't remember if it was Victor or Bobby, they posted in one of their games that's what their party did, and it turned out horrible. So,
Yep.
I honestly, like,
we did kill him.
think, like, oh, Vampire Lord, yeah, let's let him rest, and then go off and find the fake Draghiscu. So that was a twist that I was like, all right, let's go with that. But I think it ended up good because it added, you know, a lot of tension there. I did like their faces when they lifted the coffin and saw that it was Draghiscu there. I did enjoy that part.
Ken asked a good question, a series of questions. Let's start with this. How did the ending make the players feel? Chris?
I'll start there. Yeah. I mean, there's so many questions at the end there. I wanted to see what happened, to tell you the truth. I didn't want to end it yet. I wanted to see what happened when we got back to talk to King Edward more than anything. So that was the big thing that I just felt like it wasn't finished. It's not done yet. I was happy with the fact that the team was working well at the end there. We had a plan that was coherent together.
Mm-hmm.
But again, finally we had a plan that was coherent and together. We didn't get to do it.
But I think that's almost a beautiful origin story.
Yeah,
the
right?
ending made me feel really good, actually, more so than I thought, because at first I kind of thought, because I'm actually the opposite. I thought we were just starting a whole new leg. I thought, man, this would be great as a whole new chapter, because now we're sort of succinct. We've actually technically completed our mission of killing Draghiscu, and now we've sort of opened up this new can of worms, which we didn't anticipate. So it made me feel good. What about you, Justin? I was going to call you Enty.
Yes, well, that's me now. I'm taking on the role of Enty for the rest of my life.
Good.
Yeah, I felt the same. I really liked at the end that we did get that coherent plan down. In terms of what Enty was thinking, I mean, he asked a series of questions, but yeah, how did that make me feel? I liked the ending. It did leave me with a bit of a heart-sinking feeling of, oh, it's over. I mean, I feel like there's.
Well, that's like any good book or story. Yeah, that's like, oh, you always want more. Do you feel successful? Do you feel successful, Enty?
Does Enty feel successful? Yes, Justin feels successful. It was we stopped it. We stopped it. Whoever this, what did he say his name was?
Henry
Ruth. He was the original.
The Pikes guy, wasn't he?
No, he was the original vizier to the King Edward.
Oh, right! From the pregame.
He was the guy that sent because you guys never really met the first, like, in the prologue game. Remember, you didn't actually deal with the king, you dealt with Henry of Ruth. he was the one that sent you on the mission.
So it's just like Scooby-Doo. Like
it was Mr. McCrillicuddy all along. No, but that's actually a good point. And I was just going to ask a follow-up to that, but I don't remember it. Ken's other question was, is Irwin now questioning the black stain on his family history? For sure, yeah. I think now is this is sort of, in a weird way, I kind of feel like this is that origin story that we kind of needed for these characters, where they connected and sort of clicked and saw each other for what they were, and started and to add to that, from my own question, for the players first, would we revisit this?
Definitely, yeah. I think I would like to play Enti again, and I would like to see how he'd be fitting into this world that Mycl has created in the next 5 years, or where he'll be in the next 10 years, where the world will be. I'm really curious about what Henry Telruth is going to do next, and how our actions really affected the world.
I agree, and I think that's kind of one of the beautiful things. When you're given a storyline in an RPG, you have to a certain extent, create. And we talked about this off camera quite a bit. It's tough to play 10th level characters and have this knowledge of the world and this knowledge of good and bad and stuff like that. But when you're playing characters for the second time, after what I would imagine would be a substantial break between this and the next campaign, or the next part of it, we now have that history. Mm-hmm. We know why we'd be hunting Henry, because we have a personal stake in it. It's not something that we have to roll a history roll to remember when we met him. It's something that we remember him, imposing as Draghiscu, meeting us in that town, killing that guy, and so to me that, and that's kind of one of the rubs with RPGs, which is such a pro and a con sort of at the same time. As you build characters, you get to grow them, and you get to feel more about their personal, histories and things like that. So yeah. Bob asked, is Harlan's bite from last week going to come back and haunt him like Mina in Dracula? I don't even remember being bit. Was I bit?
I believe so, yeah. Yeah, because he pulled you in when you were supposed to drink and you didn't. I believe he pulled you in to bite.
Right.
Did I remove the curse? Or actually, no, there's no curse. The only way we turn by full-fledged vampires for the drink from, unlike the spawn, right? Didn't we decide that?
Yeah.
Right. Vampires ain't got nothing on me.
Yeah.
Aisha asked to the GM, Mycl, what was your inspiration for making this world?
Actually, that's an excellent question, and it was 100% the community. Because if you remember, before we did this, I kept putting polls up about, did you want the short or long rest, gritty versus realism? Did you want low magic, high magic, that sort of thing? So once I got those answers, I was like, okay, cool. How do I make this all work? And so that's how that came about. The actual kingdom, obviously was from the last thing, the strange game that we played. My character was, and Justin's characters were big gamers, and we talked about this online game that we played called Kingdom of Quests. And you'll notice that a lot of the names came from all the previous games that we played. Whether, like, Edward Mason from Call of Cthulhu, to make the direct line. We had the map. So when I developed the races, that, like, you're all human, but again, I had you could be a Penthian, which were rugged mountain-dwelling people, Shazians, which was, I believe Shaz was Alex's character from Numenera, that sort of thing. So it was drawing inspiration from all of those sorts of things, as well as once I did decide it was going to be a Rakshasa posing as a vampire, then I started going online and looking at Romania and, traditional Dracula lore.
So there was no TV series or anything that.
And I was gonna say, and absolutely, once we went with low magic, it was 100% supernatural. I actually went on Supernatural Wiki to figure out, okay, how do they kill demons? How do they kill vampires? And that sort of thing. And as such, now I'm actually starting to make like a little homebrew supernatural campaign.
Which I like to think is still going to be in the same world, but like 600 years from this point. You know what I mean? Like, or well, 500 or whatever. So like it's still the same lineage, because I love the idea that we play characters from 600 years ago, we're playing characters from now, and we're going to be playing characters. You know, because I love the modern setting of Supernatural, because Supernatural is a fantastic show, and if you haven't seen it, you got to check it out. It's very good.
That's just like what Patrick's asking. If you had to play a character that is a descendant of your character, how would this campaign affect in their personalities?
Well, that's a good one for Harlan, because his was a direct descendant from...
I think it's
the prologue.
If we did it again and it's another descendant.
Well, I think in part, and even when I wrote Irwin, it was dependent on how his great-great-grandfather was perceived by the kingdom. And it actually wasn't until we started the first game here that Mycl said, oh yeah, the Kipling name is, bad. It was just a few days before, I should say, that I decided to say, okay, Irwin's going to be a guy trying to reclaim his family history. Had he said that my great-great-grandfather was honored and like treated really well, I think Irwin probably would have been more like a cocky type, little funnier character actually. So the choice is, based on that. So if we play characters with descendants of these guys, I think it just depends on how the history books read them. Would be my thinking. Because if NT is like the great and powerful actor, his ancestor might live in his shadow, or if NT was the man who screwed something up, the ancestor might be like...
I don't know. I'm thinking that if NT has an ancestor, they're probably not going to like acting at all. They're probably not going to even care. They're probably not even going to be into history books. Probably going to be really into video games. Might even be Dex Dalton. I don't know why. I don't know why they'd have the different last names, but...
Well, Nietzsche will still be around because he'll actually be a vampire at that time.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Right, yes.
Bite me!
His eye's just festering. He's just been able to stave off. It was actually a vampire bite to the eye, and good immune system. But
David asked, Mycl, was it challenging to play a vampire to the hilt when dealing with 10th level characters?
I think the challenging part was trying to keep his rage, I don't know if I pulled that off successfully enough. I really don't know if I pulled that off successfully enough. And again, as it went on, he got less and less rageful. But when he first woke up, I wanted him to be just pure fury, and that's again why I didn't let I set the perception checks on it really, or persuasion checks at really high difficulties, and they got lowered as we went.
Because he warmed up to us.
Yeah, well, again, at first he's like, I don't know if you've ever been woken up for a really good drown in your own drool kind of nap, and you're just like,
every day.
Yeah, pretty much. And so that's what I was trying to get across, and I don't know if I did that successfully enough. I think I could have brought more to it, but no. I've always explained to these guys that, and the Dungeons and Dragons, no matter what era you play, what edition you play, I think they've always done a really good job at game balance. And I've always told these guys I will never put them in direct conflict with something that's, too powerful for them. But if you look at challenge rating wise, yes, the real Draghiscu was a much higher challenge rating than, say, would be typically for 3 10th level characters. Now again, that's why I allowed some of the things that aren't necessarily by the book to go through. And again, being in the low magic world with, sure, let's let beheading work, because that's also what works in Supernatural, which is according to the wiki.
And also, it was a really good roll. Let's not forget.
But yeah, I don't know if that answered your question or not, but I honestly, I think one of my favorite parts of running this was actually the imp.
No, we're not there yet. That's
okay.
that last question, our favorite part.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. Sorry.
Well, we always like to ask that at the end because as we talk about our characters, I remember more and more of the scenes rather than thinking for 5 minutes about what we were. But yeah. Well, okay, let's do that. What was our favorite part? So, Mycl, go ahead.
Yeah, I liked knowing that the imp was so far below them challenge rating wise, but because of their experience, being able to use such a low level creature, and it still inspired fear until they realized what it was. Because if you remember, you were all like, "No, let's not go outside," that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think that I really enjoyed that part of it. And I really liked playing the old lady when she's smacking you with the brooms and that sort of thing. That was pretty fun.
I gotta say, I loved the imp. I love the continued use of pottage because I just thought that was fucking hilarious. But you know what? I was thinking about this because Chris mentioned it in chat about favorite parts, and I kind of was thinking for a bit. You know, I think my favorite part was the first fight we had with the vampire in that because but it not only was it a good and satisfying fight, it was also well executed because we kind of flanked. It also showed a bit of the character's strengths because I remember NT slinking off to the shadows at one part and me thinking, what the fuck is this guy doing? And then he struck from the shadows, and it set a really good tone. I thought it was just a brilliant fight. It was well executed. It wasn't long. It wasn't too short. It felt hard. And it felt satisfying. That to me was my favorite part. That first fight in the barn.
My favorite part is pretty small, but it's basically when Justin handed the potato over to the guy he was impersonating.
Because he forgot he didn't look like him. He only sounded like him.
Yeah, that was so good. Sorry, Justin, to bring that up again, but that.
It was
just so good because it was believable too. Because Enty, could have been so
into the role
character that he believed he was that guy.
I would love to say that
That's what it was.
Brilliant role playing on my part, but no, I was not tapping into Enty's true performance self. That was really just me messing up.
But we went with it, and that was great.
That was great. You went with it, yeah. I would have to say that my favorite part was pretty much the action that kind of flipped the entire plot on its head, and it was Erwin making the decision to go to the castle on his own. I would say that was the point in the campaign where I was just like, whoa, all right, what the hell is going to happen now? Like if I was reading a book and that was the end of the chapter, I wouldn't be able to put it down after that point. So it's partly Harlan for instigating that and making that go, but also Mycl for being like, all right, let's go with it and let's see what happens next week.
Yeah, Mycl's endlessly patient with our shenanigans.
Oh yes.
It's like, yeah, all right, fine. He once let my wife roll to light a bag of poop on fire and throw it at someone's house that we had unsuccessfully.
Yeah, I just love how excited you got.
I rolled the poop in the bag!
No, I shit in the bag!
He is endlessly patient with our randomness. And on that, because this is actually, to my knowledge, I mean, Mycl did a few one-shots, but this is Mycl's first campaign on the stream. Mycl, this is a question from Chris Lawrence, how did you feel about GMing for the first time in a campaign format?
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun because I really enjoy just sitting back and listening to you guys do your thing. It was nice, again, being back on this side of things. As you guys know, I GM a lot. I don't play very often, and I sometimes now, because of it, get freaked out as a player because I'm like, why don't I know this? I should know what's going on right now. and I get a lot of anxiety not knowing what's supposed to happen. But also, it's interesting the way that it happens now with the community involvement, and it's a lot of fun.
It's true. That does make it that extra kick.
And now that I actually have Messenger attached to the Liam Walker account, I will actually be able to respond to people in a timely manner when they...
Not just weeks. I've messaged you so long ago on that. Levi or Levi?
Levi, yeah.
Did you say Levi? Okay. Sorry, Levi. Asked, what was the most challenging in this game for you guys? For me, I would say, and it wasn't a bad thing, but I would say trying to figure out the best course of action, which is true because I think a lot of I think my GMing style is very hand-holdy, which can be argued good and bad. My stories are usually pretty straightforward. I always encourage leading off, but I always try to give a sense of But I wouldn't argue that's true role playing, to be honest. And I think Mycl's campaigns are true to role playing, meaning if you want to stop at the side of the road and talk to the person who's selling apples, you can talk to them. Who knows? They may have a whole mission. They may be the person you need to talk to. So,
if you want to go like, fuck this, let's go to Tark, I would have let them.
Yeah, exactly. Which is good, but for me, that's the most challenging because I, tend to try to tackle things in a manner that would be, okay, well, what's the best course of action, thing like this. And when you're playing three characters like this that are equal in their power and their strength and things like that, you get those moments where one person thinks this is the best and the other person thinks this and the other person thinks this, and you have to figure out a way to, figure that out. So I would just say, knowing that what we chose to do was right, it was my biggest challenge because, yeah, there were a lot of choices. I don't even know if what we ended up with was the right choice because
there's a lot of choices, and I definitely agree with you. But just to add on, I would say that as players, and also like with the streaming element, one thing that streaming adds to a game that you don't necessarily get when you're around a table is we're constantly trying to think of what is the plot, what is the story that we're telling here, and what is Mycl like going for? Like, I always try to find like, okay, what is the predictable plot? And it's not always,
it's tough with Mycl. It's
not always there.
No, it's not. But that's true to life in a sense. Like Mycl's games are very true to life because when you go to find something, there's not going to be a clue here that says follow this thing like that,
right.
Which is like I said, I think that's more true to the spirit of role playing. Sometimes it can be challenging because you're like, I don't know what to do, and you gotta make impulse decisions. But I think it is more true to role playing.
Yeah, and what's going to push the story forward is another thing. Trying to find what decision is going to push that story in the most interesting plot direction as a player and as a GM. So,
well, for me, it was like, I just wanted to go and kill the thing because it's like, well, that's all I know. It's like I don't see what else information we can glean from anything else. But so that was the challenge, is because, and that's why we had all these plans and just sitting back and waiting and waiting.
But then we got there, and then remember there was a few conversations where you're like, well, let's let him go, and and that's the thing, because as it evolves, you keep being like, well, maybe this isn't the best thing.
Right, exactly. It's like,
I mean, how many times did we try to talk to Draghiscu? We talked to the imposter. We pulled at the stake. We tried to talk to him. He stopped attacking. We tried to talk to him. Even up until
the end. At the very end there.
Yeah, and he was like, okay, let's talk to him about the mother thing. I mean, because I think our natural instinct is that everything can be reasoned with.
Yeah.
Not when it comes to just pure evil. Great question. Aisha asked, and Mark kind of followed up, but I would like to hear Mike's answer regardless. I think we thought that Mycl the GM would be a George R.R. Martin and kill characters left and right. Was there ever any chance that you would have killed one of the guys off? And I'm assuming chose not to, or gave them the benefit of the doubt.
Every single combat they answered, they had a chance of dying. The biggest opportunity they had to just lose it would have been a really short campaign. I think it was the third one, when they convinced Nietzsche not to go in the basement, to go against, to try to kill the vampire tavern owners at the Fang and Fiddle, because they actually had a couple humans that just sit outside where their coffins are to warn them, to wake them, and they were two full-level vampires. Like, they were two full vampires, not vampire spawns. So that would have been completely, challenge rating-wise, completely well above their level. And as they were discussing it, I didn't say anything, but I was like, wow, fuck, this could be like, we could be done tonight. And there was a time in the basement with the one with Draghiscu, where I think NT almost was down pretty low.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it just that it was Harlan or something that got a good shot on him, and that's when he missed it. But he was going to go for NT again and end him there.
Also, the shadow demons that we happened to skirt.
That's true. They actually, because you had the ability to turn them, they probably would have done a lot more damage as well.
In fact, we almost lost Irwin outside of the inn to the shadow demons.
That's right. Yep, that's right. During game 2.
Well, I mean, what do they do? Maximum 20 damage? I have 90 hit points. I feel like I still would have been good enough to run inside. But you are 100% right that was definitely.
Well, you would have had 3 of them with opportunity attacks too, right? To get 3 attacks.
Well, maybe. I guess you're right. I mean, you would know. I would.
So yeah, no, I definitely. I had no qualms about doing it. It's just I did want to still give them as many opportunities not to die, but I have no issue with doing it. And there was a couple times where yes, they were close. So I hope that answered your question. I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I absolutely have no issues with doing it. And we also talked off screen again about what happens if one of the characters dies. I think Harlan was all for like coming back as a guiding ghost character or something. Did we lose Harlan?
I think we actually did lose him. He's not pulling a David.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go on to the next question then, and maybe he'll join us again in a second.
All right, what is that?
I
think we covered Aisha and Mark.
Yeah, I just saw that one.
Actually, another one. Do we have is it challenging us to end sessions on time?
Let's start with
Sometimes. Justin. Go ahead, Justin, because it doesn't have to be this game specific, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, this game was kind of tough because we had only an hour and a half, and there was a lot of questions. But I think generally, as a rule of thumb, like I do it when I GM and Mike does it. I think we all do it. Is when there is a point that seems like a good time to stop, within like 30 minutes left, the 30-minute window. That's when we will call it a day and say, okay, no, we're going to stop there. We're going to leave it on that cliffhanger. We did it a few times this campaign where we stopped at maybe 2:35 or 2:40 or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think Aisha said 5-hour games are the best in response to maybe that question. But if you're talking about it's game sessions, I guess sessions, but I know campaigns for 10 games is sometimes tough. I don't know if that's exactly directly related to the question, but I know doing 10 sessions is tough because A, you want to end on a high note, and B, sometimes material presents itself sooner than you wanted it to, and then you're kind of guessing. It's kind of lucky when we have a good ending because it just means that everything wrapped up and it got there at the right time. But I found that challenging. I know Numenera was challenging at first, wrapping my head around how am I going to make it to 10 sessions, and we got there, but it was tough for me to wrap my head around.
For you to create enough content to make 10?
Yeah, exactly. Because I had this idea, and we were kind of moving faster than I thought we would.
Yeah.
So it did wrap up at 10, but I didn't think I could do it at first, so that was a challenge.
Mm-hmm. Oh, did we lose Harlan again?
I think so. I think Mike's games had a lot of cliffhanger, good ending opportunities. I mean, we had like 3 games in a row where they ended, like it seemed like at the perfect points. Like.
Mm-hmm. Little twists at the end. Well, yeah, what was there? There was I think it first started when Irwin went to the castle. And then he got there, we did the next episode, and I think that's when we discovered the basement.
Yeah, that was, and he asked me, and Harlan asked me that question, can you follow me?
Can you follow me? And then there was the first encounter with Draghiscu where we left it on, or Mike left it on the drink my blood.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the battle where we've got him trapped, and then there was the end. So, yeah, 5 sessions in a row, just wrapped up quite nicely.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with how they started ending, because I know that, and I get it. Like the first two sessions were, I think, kind of slow as we're setting the scene and that sort of thing. But I think after that, I feel like they all ended at good spots.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just, a lot of that was by chance. And it just happened to be like, yeah, there's a good spot to end.
Yeah. So you just look for those opportunities and try to work with them. We've got another question from Aisha, and apologies if you already answered this. Liam, or Mycl, did you have grander plans for Draghiscu after this campaign?
Okay, that's an interesting question. As I said, originally, the real Draghiscu wasn't necessarily any part of this campaign. How it worked out was the Rakshasa unstaked the vampire spawn, and to control them, kept Draghiscu's body staked and in the temple where they wouldn't enter. He had some of the cultists bring him down there, and then those cultists, much in the same way as the slaves doing the pyramids, they were then ritually slaughtered. These ones were just eaten by the Rakshasa, so that they wouldn't let out the secret.
Am I right in thinking Rakshasa were the cat people?
Yeah, exactly.
With the backwards hands, right?
Yep.
I didn't know they were like evil. I thought they were just humanoid. Like, I had no idea.
Well, game stat wise, they're lawful evil.
Really interesting.
Yeah. They're so well dressed.
Right.
Yes, they are. And that was actually or game history wise. That's why we had the first murders from the village.
Oh.
The first ones were random murders because that's the vampire spawn not responding and him not being able to control them. And then later was able to get some of the people in town to say, yes, feed them, and they won't slaughter you. And eventually you can join the cult and all that sort of stuff. So that was, and the first one that you guys found in the Fang and the Fiddle, that was who was that? Lana, something like that. Whatever her name was. She was one that wouldn't be controlled, and that's why she was out there that far away. She was just going to go off and do her own thing.
Oh,
just
okay.
having to meet up at the same time.
Right. So
the fake Draghiscu, his grander plans ultimately depended on what you guys did during the campaign. So will he go out and try something else? Yes, he will. But what is it? I don't know right now because he spent so long invested in this plan.
So we literally screwed everything up for him.
Yes, and that's when you guys were like when Nietzsche was looking in the bell tower and Erwin came and there was all the bodies slaughtered again. That was him losing control of vampire spawn because you unstaked Draghiscu, so they're automatically back under his command.
Oh.
Right? Because now he's back in play, so they fall under his command. Him not knowing that went down, saw you guys were there because he's like, well, it's nighttime. Where are they? They should be out. I better go down and check on them. Saw the vampire drawing, like the trap, release them, but they were just wild animals because they're like, you're not the boss of me. And they went out and just slaughtered the cultists.
Interesting. Couldn't Draghiscu not call the vampire spawn to him?
He could, but they couldn't get down there.
Interesting.
Because you had the traps on the doors.
And then what happened when we killed Draghiscu? What happened to them then? He just ran away?
By that time, they were gone.
Neat.
Wow. Well, good job with those wards there, Chris.
Oh, I was lucky.
Now, before we now this is about the regular Draghiscu or the true Draghiscu, and it's a question from Bob Lyle, and whether you know this or not, because we weren't really supposed to wake him up, is Draghiscu an anti-hero or is he a straight-up villain? We were trying to get him on our side as an anti-hero, but was he just straight-up evil?
I pictured him along the lines of Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, how they were trying to make a vampire nation, and that was the whole reason behind slavery, so they had a constant... feeding stock, and that's what Shaz had turned into. It's like, yeah, this is our cattle, but they feed intent of themselves, so we don't have to look after them other than rule through fear. So yeah, I would say he was a villain, and it does say that again in the description that all their emotions are twisted. So he was at one point when he was a human. Yeah, he did have honor, but that all gets twisted when you turn.
Right.
I still like to believe that he was a nice guy. The sweetest guy in the world.
Actually, I'll talk on that too, because it might have seemed a little bit misleading, and that it was a little bit harsh on my side, because there were times when Irwin was trying to go through history, but the way that it was always worded was what kind of man was Draghiscu, not what kind of ruler was the vampire lord Draghiscu. Never questions about the vampire Draghiscu, is always what kind of man was he. And that's sort of what I went on that way.
Technical win. The worst kind of win. No, I'm just kidding. When I left, not that we're going to go back all the way to the questions. When I left,
do a do-over?
No, but I did want to. I don't know what you guys said, but I did want to reference. There was a question about the 10-part campaigns and things like that, and I did want to add my 2 cents because these guys will attest to my OCD-ness of having 10-part campaigns, and to an extent, yes, it does. It does frustrate sometimes because you might have more of a story to tell, and these guys might have agreed or disagreed. I don't know. But I also think it gives a nice framework to things. It gives you the idea of a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you don't necessarily have to write an end in sight, but at least you know that there is going to be a finish to things. Because, like we know, traditional RPG games, they can go on for years. A lot of people have been playing the same characters, and it doesn't mean we don't go back to them, but then it does have that responsibility. And as a weekly session that we do, you don't have to worry that we're going to pull you in for an 11th game. You can plan so much and then take a break. And also because of our trade-off style, it becomes less of a chore. When you have 10 games, the only real chore is when we say, stretch out into 10 games. Really squeeze those episodes. But so far, I feel like all of our 10-part campaigns have been successful. I don't feel like there's been dead episodes, and I don't feel like there's been filler episodes either. But that's just my opinion. And then, as a player and as a GM, I feel like all of our sessions have been really fun.
Well, that completely contradicted what we said while you were away.
Good. So there you go.
Well, again, on that note, like I said earlier, if they all had died in session 3, they probably would have just started over with King Edward of Mason III going, so I sent these 3 guys out.
Sending like level 12 characters.
I haven't got anything back.
I probably should have started with you guys.
Yeah, well, and that's the idea. You would have rolled with it, right?
And actually, I did think of another time too when Justin almost died, and that's when he went back into the castle by himself. And I told you guys the shadows were circling, and I rolled a percentage because it would have been like all 3 shadows. Another time too when
that was an oh shit moment for sure. Yeah.
Paige asked a good question too. How did you like the harsher healing window as a low magic setting?
Oh, you know what? I was going to say, sorry, because about timing-wise and things like that, I feel like in that capacity, in the timing-wise, it worked out brilliantly. Because had we gone on to the next battle, we had all my dice.
Well,
what?
As you can see from
all his superior dice were done.
He was spent. He had nothing left.
That's right. That's why he has Bellingham as a joke.
All right. Well, I would have. I know. I enjoyed it actually, even though my hands were tied at the end there without any spells. I feel like if I could just rest all the time and get my spells back, it would have been overpowered. It would have been fun. I had to think about it a little bit more. Add a little complexity, another layer to my character. I enjoyed that. I like the risk of dying. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah, it cuts into the pace of the game too, or the plot, because you can just say, okay, well, yeah, I'm just gonna, rest 5 minutes, and you're not. I don't know. It felt like this campaign, like we had to really spare all of our resources, and really pay close attention to what. Well, you especially, because you were the caster, right? Pay really close attention to what you're spending.
Yeah, you guys didn't see it. Anyone as part of the stream or the Facebook group didn't see. I did make a more challenging spell progression for Chris's character. It actually essentially started 2 levels later.
Also, you
and the amount of his cantrips were based on his wisdom modifier. He didn't automatically get 4.
You also gave me a modified list of spells I could use.
And they were almost all passive. The only really aggressive one you had was the cantrip, I believe.
Yeah, the Sacred Flame.
Yeah, everything else was a passive healing light type stuff.
Yeah, I found that was really cool. I'm for fantasy though. To tell you the truth, I like magic. I probably missed that a little bit. I think every game needs something that can explain away the fantastic. In fantasy games, it tends to be magic, and Numenera, it's the science and the ciphers, and in Strange, it's whatever you want it to be. But you kind of have to. I would imagine you'd have to really think things through a lot more if you can't just explain away things. So it kind of brought that element to it.
Yeah, I think that's all the questions that we had. Correct?
Well, let's just double check here. Speaking on campaign, yeah, okay, so yeah, we answered that.
Okay. And I am going to post at some point the little Kingdom of Quest bestiary of the creatures that I did make. So of Draghiscu stats, of the fake Draghiscu stats, and that sort of thing. So yeah, I guess if no one has any other questions, we just got a couple things from Mr. Justin James, correct?
Yes. So I want to talk a little bit about next week. Next week we're going to be running something called The Running Dead. Now, many of you guys have seen The Running Dead, but if you are new to the stream within the past few months, I haven't actually run it. It is basically a zombie game show, and all of the players are going to be making up their own, characters, and they're going to be pitted against many different types of zombies. What types of zombies? I don't know, because I let you, the community, decide. You are going to decide what zombies the players are going to be facing, and also what items they might come across in their travels through this crucible of zombie craziness. So I'm going to be doing a post either tonight or more likely tomorrow morning, just outlining everything that I want you guys to do if you have the time this week to give me some ideas for what you'd love to see the players fighting against, what zombies you like, whether or not they're slug shooting zombies, exploding zombies, toxic zombies, underwater zombies, you name it. Anything is possible. Use your imaginations. Be creative. This is going to be a lot of fun. We are going to be running the game with the Cypher system as opposed to Fate Core, which we've used in the past. And as such, as per tradition, we're going to be doing a poll for what kind of ciphers you might want to see the players use. And we have a new joiner with us.
That's right. Sorry, continue. Disregard me.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm just glad that the stream is still live.
Yeah, I guess when I drop out, it continues on. I have fucking no idea.
So there you have it. So I'm going to be making a post outlining everything that I want from you guys, one for the different types of zombies and one for the Cypher poll. And if your Cypher reaches the top of the poll, then you're going to be getting experience points, same for second and third place. So make sure you come up with some good ideas. And that's all from me. Is there anything else that anybody else wanted to say?
Bell Internet's stupid.
And again, just thank you to everyone who's followed along and played along and changed the way we play.
That's right. Fuck.
Yeah, I think that's good. Looking forward to next week, Justin.
Me too, and I'm looking forward to Deadlands after that.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Chris, is there anything you wanted to talk about with Deadlands before we?
Oh, well, I guess breaking news. I will be the GM for the Deadlands coming up, and yeah, there's going to be some special things that the community can do to be involved with Deadlands. I'm going to post something in the near future so that everyone can get excited and hyped and start the hype train for Deadlands, which will be pretty exciting. We saw the trailer. If you haven't seen it yet, Harlan posted a great trailer for Deadlands. It's one of my favorite songs on there. So go take a look. Go put a thumbs up for that. And yeah, be ready, because Deadlands is going to be brutal, fast, furious, and fun.
Nice.
And with nothing else, as I like to say, I don't even know, can we end it without Harlan? Because, like, do you have the button?
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah, he's frozen. I was expecting him to jump in there.
Who has control? If, like, are we just stuck in limbo?
So do we just turn our lights out and go to sleep? Is that what we're doing?
Right. We get to watch us snore.
All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna get up and let my cat in. That's what I'm gonna do. So.
All right. Well, if no one has anything else to say, we will see you around the table.
Good night.
Good night.
And it doesn't end. It just keeps going.
All right. We'll see you. Bye. I'm just gonna hang up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess so.
Hey guys, see you around the table.
Yep. Bye.
And we're back to the Harlan show. Just me this time, baby. Just me. Now we get to answer all the questions that I wanted to talk about. All the really cool things. All the really neat secrets of Draghiscu's secret. And all the things that I had planned. Oh, my little wildest dreams. Thank you for watching Draghiscu's Secret. See you next week.